We will call to order the regular meeting of the Clarkston Community Schools Board of Education. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. McLean, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Heyer.
Here.
Mrs. Egan.
Here.
Mrs. Crane.
Here.
Mrs. Sivers.
Here.
Mrs. Love.
Here.
Mrs. McGinnis.
Here.
Mr. Need.
Here. All present. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is the time for public participation as indicated in agenda items 3 and 9. Item 2 is approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. One of the items requires a roll call, so Mrs. McLean, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. McGinnis.
Yes.
Mrs. Love.
Yes.
Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
Mrs. Egan.
Yes.
Mr. Heyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Sivers.
Yes.
Mr. Need.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Item 3, citizens' request to address the board. You have 2 opportunities to address the board. Under this item, you may ask to request the board on any topic on tonight's agenda, or under item 9, you are welcome to address the board on any topic. When making comments, please state your name and address. Direct your comments to the board president. Each person may speak for up to 2 minutes. Per established procedures, the board will not respond to questions or interact with the speaker during public comment. Mrs. Mahoney, did you check the sheet? Nothing. Okay, thank you. And again, anybody is welcome to address the board on any topic under item 9. Item 4 is the superintendent update. Dr. Ryan.
Thank you, President Need. Good evening, Clarkston community. Great week this week in Clarkston with our Spirit Week leading up to our homecoming game and dance on Saturday night. And as a Clarkston tradition, tonight, this evening, our Powder Puff game is currently going on. I have not got any score updates. Our juniors versus seniors. The seniors are heavily favored this year, so an exciting time by all. And there's being Spirit games and dress-ups at all of our buildings across the school district in varying ways of showing their school and district spirit for Clarkston schools. It's really kind of exciting to see. And looking into next week, we have parent-teacher conferences, so I want to encourage all of our families to be prepared and reach out. Great time to connect with your child's teacher. It's so important to keep that school-home communication strong, and we encourage it in every way possible. Lastly, I just want to say this past Saturday night, in addition to all the wonderful sports that we have going on this fall with our teams going at it, had the opportunity to watch our marching band with their flight here at Clarkston High School, who did an amazing job in kind of a sketchy set of weather conditions between it being kind of cold and rainy, and they brought it. And I just really want, if anyone were listening or can hear back from their superintendent, how proud I was of all of them and what they were able to carry off. Also this evening, I wanted to recognize you're going to hear a presentation on project-based learning here at Clarkston. It's really caught fire at the junior high. For those want to see hands-on, engaged learners, I just can't say enough, even in front of the presentation tonight, how excited I am they're here with us this evening. And also looking into the future with our design team, with our bond work, looking to break ground now in the next year. It's going to be absolutely so exciting to see the future here in Clarkston with the new junior high and a lot of the bids going out for air conditioning and all the other things that we wanted to incorporate in this bond this time around. So exciting evening information, including some information on our strategic plan update to see where the big picture is going in Clarkston, and I can tell you it's going in the right direction. So thank you for being here this evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ryan. Any questions for Dr. Ryan? Okay, item 5.1, the junior high project-based learning review that Dr. Ryan mentioned a moment ago. We are excited with this program. We're excited to hear more about it tonight. Dr. Ryan?
Thank you. We have representatives from junior high, and I'll even introduce Mrs. Mahoney to be able to come up, and if she wants to sing along with the team here, if I know how proud she is We even in the last 2 weeks have seen 2 major exhibitions at the junior high of our students, taking up the entire forefront area of the junior high with their different projects, and it was absolutely amazing to watch. So, Nancy, if you would like to do the introduction.
Yeah, I'm super excited to introduce Dan Clayson and Sandy Epifano, 2 very vibrant teachers at the junior high. And Mike Greavy just came and presented to both elementary principals as well as secondary principals the work around project-based learning in a K-12 fashion. And so it is highlighted. I think the grass started growing at the junior high, and it is starting to spread. And so I just want to personally thank you, too, for what you're doing, how we're engaging students, and just excited to celebrate an instructional practice that's really awesome.
Hi everyone, my name is Dan Clayson. We'd like to thank y'all for the opportunity to be here tonight with y'all and talk to you a little bit about some of the work that we get to do every day and the privilege that we get to have to work with the students in our district. So as Dr. Ryan and Nancy had mentioned, we do project-based learning. So basically, I'm a history teacher, Sadie is a ELA teacher. But what we do for project-based learning is we combine our 2 classes. So my second is her 3rd period, and her 3rd period is my 2nd period. And we come together every day. We have a 2-hour block, and we teach the same standards that the kids get in a standard U.S. history class or a standard ELA class, but we make the learning focus through projects. So we put together some highlights from this year. Unfortunately, Mr. Greavy and Ms. Castiglione couldn't join us tonight, but we'll be able to talk about what they've been up to as well. Does this clicker work? Is that? Oh,
The green button.
I think maybe this one. Yeah. So we'll talk first about the 8th grade stuff that we've been working on this year. We've only finished one and are starting a 2nd project right now. So we'll talk a little bit about what's on the horizon. We'll talk a little bit about the 9th grade team. They just finished their 2nd project this week, and that was very exciting. We'll also talk a little bit about, Nancy mentioned Mr. Greavy came by last week and was talking to elementary teachers about how to bring PBL into the elementary schools. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Oakland County Schools Initiative. That's the 3P initiative, which is really about expanding project-based learning and throughout not just our district, but through the county. So we started, Sandy, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so we wanted to highlight some of the cool things we started with this year. If you noticed on the last slide, it kind of said how many students that are enrolled in the project-based learning, and one cool thing this year is we've had more 7th graders apply and sign up for this class this current year than we've had in the past. And 9th grade was able to double their sections this year. So not only do they have 2 morning sections, but they have 2 afternoon. That's how much this program has grown over the last few years. So big year for 9th grade especially. But we, start off the year right off the bat, team building, kids getting their investigative work together, questioning together, and just working together on all their things.
Yep. We'd like to kind of, I'm sorry, I don't want to. We like to kind of talk about how in PBL it becomes kind of familial, like the kids are together for a lot of time. They work together. We make sure we shake the groups up so everyone kind of works together. Like Sandy said, we have about 60 kids working on projects all at the same time. So we make sure throughout the year they pretty much work with every single person in their class at least once. And as the kids go into 9th grade, it's an incredible transformation. So we like to take the time to also, at the beginning of the year, bring the 9th graders in and tell the 8th graders a little bit about what they can expect. And it's really incredible. We see kids that a year ago could not talk to members of their group, standing in front of 9th graders and 8th graders, talking about how much they've grown. And for us, I think it's just as simple as like you stood up in front of a room full of people and no problem could talk. Those kinds of great, gains that we see through project-based learning are truly, they make your heart feel so full. So it's so incredible to see, and the kids have so much fun with it. Wish we could say it was the hardest thing that we do, but it's really, honestly, it brings so much joy to us as teachers to get to watch the kids interact with each other in that way. So our first project this year was the Americana Arcade. This is kind of a review lesson for history. So the kids, for those of you who aren't super hip to the history standards in Michigan, they end the year in 5th grade talking about the 13 colonies in the American Revolution, and then we start with kind of a review of the 13 colonies into the American Revolution. And so our driving question for every project we do, we have one overarching question that every project is going to kind of build puzzle pieces to answer for that question. So our question for this first project is, what factors of European colonization led to a distinct way of life in the American colonies that led them to separate from England? And how the kids were supposed to demonstrate their learning was we built an arcade. So we have 11 groups, and it was kind of like our take on a Dave & Buster's or a Chuck E. Cheese. So you can see Dr. Ryan, he's playing the duck game where you had to go and the kids would ask you a question and you had to find an answer. We had some putt-putt golf. The kids did a really fun, I thought this was so clever. There was a whack-a-mole game where you had it was about the lost colony of Roanoke. And so as kids when we do projects, we call them showcases instead of presentations. So, you kind of get your classic idea of a presentation day in a classroom where everyone's sitting and the presenters get up and present. For PBS, we're doing this all at once. So we invite 9th grade classes, other 8th grade classes. We have leaders in our district come, and the kids have to be ready to go for about an hour and a half of presenting pretty much nonstop. Excuse me. They get an opportunity to go see the other projects, and it's really just incredible. The kids have a blast with it. By the end of it, they're really, really loosened up about how they present, and they tend to really enjoy it. So that was our Americana Arcade.
The other cool thing too, at this age level, there's not a lot of opportunity for parents to come see a whole lot of what goes on, and so these showcases give them the opportunity. It is an odd time of the day, but we had such huge parent turnout for these showcases that the kids were so excited and wanting to show what they learned and their skills. So just another highlight for them.
And it's really special for us too, because we love when the kids are like, oh man, I got to talk to Mr. Clarkston about the 13 colonies or whatever. But when you got to explain to dad or mom or grandma and grandpa, what was going on at Roanoke, it adds a whole new level of the kids being like, they are going to push me in ways that teachers don't even know how to do that. So it's really fun to get to work with the kids that way. Oh, I forgot, that was really fun. This group here in the bottom middle, they did mini golf. So it was a mini golf, like a putt-putt course, but you did it with your hand. I thought that was really clever. We hadn't really seen anything like that before. So really fun, and that's our first project, and we're really excited about where that goes. You want to do the statement?
Sure. Some kiddos came up to us after the showcase and throughout the next week and just had some nice things to say about this class, so we thought we'd highlight some of those up there for you.
Oh yeah, you want me to? Oh yeah, yeah. We're really proud of them. We're really excited. So our next project, we've teamed with the Academic Service Learning, headed by Chris Rogers. So last year, at the end of the year, we did a traveling trunk, which, if you're not familiar, lots of historical societies put together traveling trunks. So it was my first ASL project putting it together. And it was based on the Civil War, and the idea was we would create a trunk that would be available at Bob Brazier's office, who's the head of elementary social studies, and elementary teachers could rent out the trunk, and there would be kind of hands-on activities that elementary students can do. And Bob enjoyed that project so much, they came back and asked us to do another one for the American Revolution. So our next project that we're working on is actually a traveling trunk that will go out to classrooms throughout the district if they want to, when they hit their American Revolution unit at the end of the school year for 5th grade, which we're really excited about. And we've been talking to the kids about the kind of history of the American Revolution the last week and a half, and then they're really, really geeked to get into the project making and use that history to do stuff that's going right back into our district. And we want to kind of keep building that connection. When I taught in Texas, I used to do a revolutionary story time, and I taught in a 6th through 8 middle school. And it was so great because the day before Thanksgiving break, the 6th graders would come listen to the 8th graders tell their revolutionary American stories. And it was awesome. By my 3rd year, my 6th graders who had become 8th graders were like, I can't wait to do that. So we want to build that excitement for the elementary kids, that as they come up, they've seen some of this project stuff and they get to be a part of it, and then hopefully send that back out into the district. So that's kind of what 8th grade has been up to this year. We've got a lot coming up. We'll also have a Constitution fashion show coming up if you want to come see how the kids walk the stage. That's a fun one. Ninth grade, as they're not here, we'll do our best to kind of spread the word. But again, the culture building, we really believe that's fundamental to what goes on in PBL. The kids, they're a big group. There's a lot of them. We want them to get that sense that, hey, that person that you may be in a normal class or a standard class where you aren't going to sit next to that person this year, you're not going to maybe be in a group with them, you're going to be in a really big project with them. So you have to kind of build that culture early on. And so we do that in 8th and 9th grade as well. I can talk about this.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
all history.
So the ninth grade class, they pick up right where we leave off in 8th grade. They pick up after Reconstruction. So it's this kind of weird period of American history where it's at the end of Reconstruction up until about the 19th century. It's Progressive era. And the Gilded Age and things like that. So what Mr. Greavy and Ms. Castiglione have them do is they create newscasts on a specific issue that was going on in the 1880s to 1890s, and then tie it to how that looks today. So they can pick from a wide array. The kids look at like Teddy Roosevelt's Square Deal. They look at monopolies. They look at early pollution in factories, and then they kind of make a newscast about how that issue is impacted today. It's really cool. They bring in Brett McCall from the tech department. He goes through this whole thing where he teaches the kids how to use WeVideo. There's one here. Greavy was so proud of this. He stopped me today and said, make sure you talk about this if I don't make it. So up in that middle there, you can see these kids actually figured out how to have 2 green screens going on at once. And one is the girl, I don't know her name. She was not in PBL last year, I don't think, but she's kind of the newscaster. And then the other group over here in the black and white, that's an effect that you can use in WeVideo. So they were pretending that she was interviewing kind of on screen, these people at the Women's March. So very, very cool. We saw a lot of just fun things. And the kids, this is something I think any teacher would tell you. Our job's the best job in the world. The kids are hilarious. They're amazing. And watching them take those talents, those natural fun talents, and putting them to historical and literary works really just is an incredible thing to see. They also did a Hispanic Heritage Month that was incredible. We went down and we saw it. The kids picked an influential person of Hispanic heritage, and they put together different types of projects. We are big fans of choice, so we usually will tell the kids this is kind of what we want to put together, but we want you to choose the way that you do that.
Yeah, how they showcase it. So some groups made games, some groups made interactive posters. Every group was different, and that's the cool thing. Every student has choice and voice in what they do and how they present it and how they showcase it.
Yeah, we really are firm believers, and we want to give you the rubric of the overall what you need to be successful, but we don't want to be so specific that we've already got the project in our head and we're just expecting you to show us what it looks like. So a lot of PBL is giving them the tools to build the projects the way that they see fit. And you'd be surprised how awesome they turn out. And so this is some more examples. Really just overall a lot of fun. They set up in the media center. Our 8th graders really enjoyed it. We always love an opportunity for the 8th graders to get to know the 9th graders. It just builds community, not just within PBL, but kids who know a 9th grader from 8th grade, they feel a little bit more comfortable in their own building. So it's really nice to have those opportunities where 8th and 9th grade are working together. So imperialism narratives is coming up next. I haven't talked much about this. Sounds like the personal narrative project that 9th grade might be working on.
9th grade thing.
I wish I could tell you more. I don't. I'm sure it's wonderful.
You'll get an invite.
Yeah,
You'll get an invite.
You will all get invites, and we also, we always encourage you if you can make it, please come. We want to see. And it means a lot to the kids. When adults come, we love to send out just emails to old teachers. We've had previous teachers show up. We're excited for the revolutionary traveling trunk. One of the things we're going to do is have kids email their old teachers and tell them what they remember from the American Revolution. So we want to try and, like we said, run PBL as something that feels special and runs through our whole district. That's kind of our vision for it. If you would ever like to get in touch with us, these are our emails. You guys have access to this. Sandy and I are 8th grade. Jen and Mike are 9th grade. I think that we've got to be pretty close to time, so just know that you guys already know the district is looking at bringing PBL to the elementaries. We're excited about that. We get kids all the time asking, hey, can I keep doing this in high school? And we're like, we're hoping, we would love to see that happen. And then at Oakland Schools, I got to attend the PBL workshop this summer, and they are really, really excited and really doing a lot of good work about trying to expand PBL throughout our whole county. And the idea of, maybe Clarkston pairs with, Avondale and does like a cross-district project. That's something that's not unrealistic and something we would love to see. We're all Oakland Countyers, we're all Michiganders, and it'd be great if we could make those bridges. So we're excited to be a part of this team, and we'd like to thank you again for the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. We are excited to have you here tonight. I mean, our kids are learning skills and planning and collaboration. These are just critical to survive in the workplace. So, I mean, we are very pleased. Comments or questions from anyone? Mrs. Crane?
Thank you guys very much. I know I've seen you a lot. My son is in his second year at PBL and was actually supposed to come tonight and talk to everyone, but got very scared at the last minute. So I know he got very scared. But as I was walking out on my way to the meeting tonight, he said, please make sure to tell them how much I love it and how I wish that I could do it in high school. And I had actually spoken to Mrs. Hester last year, his counselor, about how I wish we had it in high school as well. So I definitely would support that. But quickly, I think the other thing that you guys didn't say that I think is very important is how many life skills they learn just when they get put in these different groups with kids they know, kids they don't know. There's always one kid who does more work, one kid who does less work, and how these kids deal with it. And it's always very interesting to me. And then you always worry, like, is your kid the one who's not working? And then when I came and watched these videos, like, I was blown away. At first, the depth of what they were talking about, and then how well they were doing. They were funny, they were smart, they edited all of it. It was just, and then I'm always amazed at you teachers, because it's a hard age without throwing in all of that other stuff. So thank you guys very much.
Appreciate having you. Glad to be part of the village.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again. Thanks for being
Thank
with us.
you.
Item 5.2 is a presentation on the boys volleyball team proposal. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, this evening we have representatives. Mr. Cozen couldn't be with us, but we're going to hear about the potential for boys volleyball becoming a new sport at Clarkston High School. It would start out as a club sport. We could hear some more information about, kind of the ins and outs and the process of how it would fit in with the greater offerings that we have. We have Kramer Everett. Want to come up to the podium, and he's going to give us a little rundown on the ins and outs of boys volleyball.
Hello, good afternoon, evening.
Good evening.
I'm accompanied by Allie Smith, our girls varsity volleyball coach. I'm one of her assistants with the girls program. I got involved in boys volleyball a couple years ago at the club level, AU club level with Michigan.
Can you move the microphone up just a little bit?
Yeah. I got involved with
Thanks.
boys high school and middle school volleyball at the AU club level a couple years ago with Michigan League Volleyball Academy, which is also very prevalent in the girls' side. Status and growth of boys high school volleyball. In the United States, it is on a massive uptick in the last 10 years, adding over 10,000 high school athletes in just the last year alone. And that is only in states where it's considered a varsity sport. So unlike Michigan, that is getting increased involvement at the club level, that does not contribute to this statistic. So way more than 10,000 in the last year alone is really what that comes down to. It's second only to boys indoor track and field, which is growing in its own way because of facilities and such. It's been a slow growth on that side too. So lots of opportunities for boys to play post-high school. Between the NCAA and AIA two-year colleges, there's almost 300 of those that offer boys volleyball, men's volleyball as a sport, as well as almost 500 men's teams registered at the college club level. And that doesn't even include teams that aren't registered on the national, compete nationally as club teams. They're more intramural or compete locally. So just an abundance of opportunities for boys post-high school to stay involved with the sport which I'm a big advocate of. Most, if not all, of my friends as an adult I've made through playing volleyball as an adult. I didn't pick it up until my early 20s. So it's good for more than just athletics. Currently in Michigan, it started in 2018 with just 4 teams, all from the west side of the state. Here we are 5 seasons later. There was no 2020 season because of COVID. There were 58 teams last year competing in 9 different conferences. So we're getting in divisional play, a higher division, a lower division, separated in conferences, et cetera, et cetera. So it's becoming more and more legit, more legitimate every year. And with only 6 more years this year, 6 more teams this year, which is pretty much a guarantee from what I've heard, between Lake Orion, Stony Creek, Troy United, just in our area, we'll have enough to petition as a MHSAA recognized varsity sport. So 1 year club for Clarkston, and then going right into a varsity sport in the state of Michigan after that. Requirements and schedule, it's a spring sport, so not pulling from basketball, which is the other big run fast, jump high sport. Registration deadline is February 1st. 3-month season. We'd be competing against very similar teams that our current sports are playing against. Avondale, Dakota, Detroit, Catholic Central, Lakeland, and North Branch. So those are all currently have had teams for the last year or more. And we're, like I said, likely adding Lake Orion, Stony Creek, Troy United between Troy High School and Troy Athens. It's important to note that hosting matches is not required at this point. Competition is done in a quad format where 4 teams will show up to a site, all play each other, so when you get 3 matches once or twice a week, or weekend tournaments. $150 registration fee is due on that February 1st deadline date. That's all that's required to enter the club circuit with the team for the school. Allie and Jeff have graciously offered to share the equipment, so no added cost there, which is really just net systems and balls at this point. And then our expenses would be uniforms, referees, and transportation. With it being a club format, not just this year but going forward, we would be doing a lot of our own fundraising as far as kickback nights at local restaurants, which the girls volleyball team does, assisting with boosters, other things like that, things that are already in place and working well for the girls volleyball team. A little bit about myself. This is my first year with Clarkston as an assistant. I am the boys high school development coordinator at Michigan Elite Volleyball Academy. With the boys side of the program growing, this is the first year of that role's existence. So I'm very close with our director. We work very hard just to grow the sport, and not necessarily for our club and for our wins and losses, but just making the sport more available. We both wish that we had it growing up and we didn't, and so we're just trying to give these guys an opportunity that we wish we had and did not have. Last season I coached my club team to a AAU national game, first Michigan team to play in a boys Michigan team to play in a boys national game. So ended up runners up, didn't bring home the win, but we were there. We were there and we made our presence felt. That is all, if there are no questions.
Any questions?
Just one little final note. I did have a couple follow-ups with Jeff Cozen in regards to like Title IX and balance of sports, and that was not listed as a concern with field hockey and some other that balanced it out. So that was one question I had, but it's not an issue at all.
Right. Yeah, he said the same thing to me. I think there's 2 girls sports already in place ahead of boys, so Title IX is not a problem.
Okay. Well, this will be. Oh, Mrs. McGinnis.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say this will be back on our agenda for next month for formal approval. So.
Yeah, and I'll take any questions tonight and over the next month if we have any.
Yep.
Issues.
I'm wondering if you have noticed from the students how much interest there is.
Mr. Cozen said that there is more than enough interest. So it's really, we would look for 12 boys for one team. If there's 24 boys interested, then we'd have a varsity and JV. If there's 36, and we'd add a freshman team, and I'd have to go find coaches. But a minimum of 12, and I think we have more than enough from what I hear.
And at this time, are ninth graders
allowed to play with this team here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just being that they're at another building. I want you to know that I'm fully supportive of activities that keep our kids engaged with extracurricular, with the community, with building team sports with one another. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to engage more boys in the task of playing volleyball. I know our girls volleyball team has a lot of notoriety, and I think it's a great opportunity for our boys to take it up and see, that they can meet the mark that the girls have met.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with Mrs. McGinnis' comments. Anytime we can have more opportunities for our kids to participate in this kind of a program, I think that's excellent. So with that, thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Presentation item 5.3 is our strategic plan update. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, we wanted to give you kind of a kickoff update for our strategic plan for 23-24, and I have Ms. Nancy Mahoney and Stacy Puzio going to deliver it this evening.
Good evening. We're excited to, I think, from a high level, lay out what we're working on in K-12 when it comes to the strategic plan. We've been at the strategic plan now for quite a while. We see that it expires in 2025, so we're still running strong though. So lots of good things in place, and lots, I think, that we have accomplished and really celebrating as we move forward. So very familiar, our mission statement is that we create learning environments where students, staff, and families always feeling challenged, healthy, engaged, safe, and supported. In our vision, this is what we're striving, that our students are well prepared for a future that excites them and believe that they certainly can achieve their dreams. And when we look at the strategic plan, everything that we've done has been really divided into 4 pillars. We call them the pillars of excellence. And they are color-coded this evening. Anything related to whole person development has always been purple. The foundational and academic skills is green. Our student-focused learning is orange, and our future pathways is blue. And within these 4 pillars of excellence, we have 10 goals. And so what we've created over the years are strategies, which are action steps that allow us to take forward to obtain these 10 goals. And I just want to say that often these goals are not obtained in one year. Sometimes we've been working on them for multiple years over time to complete the work around this. When we look at all of our strategies, we did divide them into 3 areas that did emerge when we started this, and it's really related to well-being, community, and academics. And so Stacy's going to speak to the well-being and community, and then I'm going to speak to academics. This is also divided into elementary and secondary. And so we're in year 5. Our areas of focus this year, and I think, speak to this as well as Stacy in our spring, kind of finale as we looked at even coming into this year in a workshop, is relationships and the power of relationships and how important relationships are with our teachers and our students, with students and our, to each other, with teachers, and of course administration and how we all play a part. Our multi-tiered system of supports, we often would call that MTSS. We've been in it longer in elementary, and we're taking a strong stance to support our kids and teachers at the secondary. You'll see that tonight. And then how we're uplifting and really putting things in place for highly effective professional learning communities. And so at the elementary, I'll let Stacy kind of lead well-being and community.
Good evening. So you will notice that some of the circles have a gold ring around it, and that indicates that that is a strategy that is new to us for this year. And so you'll see in this one for well-being that there are 2. The green one that is implement programs for developing social emotional learning, that is a continuation, whereas the one in purple is continue and implement programs and policies to prevent bullying, violence, and social exclusion, build social connections, and promote positive mental and emotional health. And so that is new this year.
So when we examine the activities that we're doing at the elementary level, some of these things, again, you saw that from last year, the restorative practices, professional learning and implementation, and adding into that, growing our own learning, and what does that look like? And so how do we then have a restorative approach when there's conflicts and consequences that go along with those things? New this year is a social emotional learning key practices that allows for a space for kiddos to have a check-in, to have some movement, have some mindful moments, and perhaps even have a safe spot in their classroom that allows them, if they need a time to take a deep breath, that's something that they can do. And then just having that consistent threat and risk assessments and documentation. Any of our new social workers at the elementary level would be trained in the CSTAG approach, and then we are also looking at implementing that into a documentation that's electronic as well. So we look at community, you'll see that we have one that is new for this year and then two that are continuing from last year. The two continue to expand successful community partnerships to support well-being, as well as to communicate current resources and programs clearly to stakeholders. New this year is to develop connections, which will engage families and community to enhance student learning. And so when we look at those activities, we want to continue that partnership with Easter Seals. We have Easter Seals co-located in our secondary buildings. We are always examining if there is a need at the elementary level to have that, but we do partner with them if there are certain situations that we need some support with our kiddos. We are looking to expand the LaFontaine Pack of Dogs and having a dog go into Clarkston Elementary probably more in the spring right now. She's being trained right now. Continuing with the family and parent engagement and working with our coordinator just to make those connections with our parents. That actually the last one says community nights, and so helping to coordinate some nights that allow for parents to recognize and see what are some of the resources that are available in the community that help both with well-being as well as just things that can help them in their own homes. Providing resources for staff and parents on website. We're looking to put some electronic resources together for that. And we're working that in the next month or so we would like to have the Be the Light Friege implemented that is going to be at Renaissance High School.
Focusing in on academics, empowering instructional staff to use effective practices, ensuring student growth. And so this includes our teachers, our coaches, our interventionists, even our aides, and even partnering again with special education. And so there's a lot of, I think, colleagues and people involved within that focus area there. Continuous development for curriculum integration based on student interests and workplace trends. And so we really start at the elementary level, really thinking about student interests and what they might want to be, and to tapping in on their strengths as well to get them excited about their future. And so implementing MTSS process as documented in the MTSS handbook. So this was I think a big undertaking that we took all last year to prepare the handbook, and we did place it in the hands of our teachers this year and really working through that. Very proud of that work in working with Dr. Wendy Osterman, I think, to uplift that work. And so we defined roles clearly in the handbook. We have built common language. We have defined processes. And we've really laid out, I think, some strong PLC expectations, including documenting who we teach, what we teach, and how we teach when it comes to a PLC conversation. Remember that our MTSS is really about 3 tiers, and that tier 1 is in the classroom. It is led by our teachers in terms of the best instructional practices that we can put in place of kids. Within classrooms, we can also have tier 2 led by the teacher. They're pulling small groups to focus on specific skills that we can help those kids right within the classroom. Also tier 2, our interventionists can come and pull small groups, again, to lean into skills and try to fill the gaps when it comes to language arts as well as math. And then tier 3 is really individualized, and most often that is led by the intervention as well, but that could be one-on-one or one-on-two instruction. The second bullet there, the Literacy Essentials of Oakland, we called that LEO. This is our third year partnering with Oakland Schools, and they have now added on a math component, and so we just had our first meeting at Oakland Schools. It was very exciting to think about continuing that culture of learning, so there's more information to come there. Implementing academic support, skill gap instruction, and opportunities for enrichment. And one thing I think that even I make a mistake, but Tier 2 can also be about enrichment. It can be about those kids that are truly advanced and how we can service them. And we do have interventions occurring within the elementary division for that piece right now. And then how do we utilize assessments to determine individual needs? And we have a plethora of local pieces of data that we really dive into to look at kids' needs. We also use, our state assessments as well as our national assessments to look at kids as well. We've got the reading growth plans coming on with parent-teacher conferences, and so there's lots of pieces. And I just want to say that we do partner with families in terms of the academic success within that third bullet. Our staff continues to learn and grow with Leader in Me. Our subject area coordinators plan professional learning right beside Dr. Wendy Osterman on effective professional learning communities, and this is focused around data, curriculum, and instruction. Wendy and I are starting this week to go into every elementary building to look at the data, I think from the end of last year, and establishing goals specifically to their building. And so I'm excited to celebrate, but also focus on improvement within each building, and that will happen this week. And then we had our career day, continue our work with Zello and how we really expand on the interests and strengths of our kids K-5. And so Bob Brazier has led that charge, and we continue to work even establishing a career focus with our elementary kids. And now let's look at secondary.
All right, so we have one new one this year, which is to ensure students have access to comprehensive health services that include mental health and counseling services. And then two, that we are continuing in terms of continuing and implementing programs and policies to prevent abuse, bullying, violence, and social exclusion, build social connections, and promote positive mental and emotional health, as well as to continue and implement programs to identify risks and early indicators of mental, emotional, and behavioral problems among youth, and to refer them to the appropriate services. When you look at the activities at secondary, you'll see a lot of things that you already saw in elementary. So it's nice that there's some continuity that goes from K all the way up to 12. And then there are things that are very specific to secondary. So we are continuing with the restorative practices, implementation, and learning. In fact, we have now leaders in each of our secondary buildings who have access to all the learning that many of us went through with Bill Boyle, and we can then now share that with our staff members and grow that learning into each of the buildings. And so again, having an implementation of the restorative approach to conflicts and consequences, what does that look like? And how do we work with kiddos if they have engaged in something that's not appropriate, and how do we help them to restore the harm that they have caused with that? Again, the consistent threat and risk assessments and documentation as well, growing that. This last year we had Josh LeMay and Jake Schmidt, who is a high school psychologist, go through learning for CSTAG so they can also teach our staff members who need that, so that we're utilizing right here in-house how to support that work. Working again with lesson design that's paused at the middle school, Wolf Time that's at the junior high and the high school, and community forums that include things that are for well-being, for mental and emotional health and connections with one another. This year we've added an additional counselor at the middle school, the junior high, and the high school. We're one of few in the county who can say that we are at the ratio that is recommended for counselors of 250 to 1. In fact, at an Oakland County meeting recently, one of our counselors was one of the only ones who could raise their hands when they said who is close to a 250-to-1 ratio. So that's something that we're very proud of. We also have just hired a gen ed social worker at the high school who is yet to start, and so we're working to expand those services as well. That person will help to work with kiddos who might need that break room at the high school, and work with any kiddo who needs that kind of support, who may have a 504 and needs support weekly or bi-weekly, whatever that need might be. And we've also hired positive behavior interventionists both at the middle school and the junior high, and so working collaboratively with counselors as well as with administration in restorative practices and setting up just that good culture that we want to have at the secondary buildings. When we look at the community, everything is just kind of expanding what we've been doing, continuing to expand the successful community partnerships to support well-being, as well as addressing the needs of each person's healthiest self. That is emotional, physical, environmental, and social wellness, as well as disease prevention, and then to communicate current resources and programs clearly to all stakeholders. So again, everything on here you saw for elementary, so it's kind of a rinse and repeat, but expanding that. Again, we have Easter seals at all 4 of our secondary buildings that are co-located in our buildings at least one day a week, and we're constantly examining those numbers, so if there's a need to expand to an additional day or even more, we are working on that. We're looking to bring in Toast to Renaissance High School, and we're hoping to do that over the next couple of months, so we'll have a dog there. Again, continuing the family engagement and having resources. I'm actually going to be working with counselors over the course of the year to put together some resources that we can have on our website, and then Be the Light for Each and the community nights.
As I look at all the time and the energy and the support that you have provided, I think at the elementary level, I feel after our August professional learning with teachers that it's really time to really focus in on secondary and to really start leaning in into their needs and how we can provide a stronger, I think, instructional piece there. And so I'm super excited, I think, to share what we've started at the secondary level and will continue. So to finalize curriculum consistency, really looking at those curriculum maps and working with our subject area coordinators to finalize those. Those are those mastery pieces, those big rocks of what students really need to obtain in terms of their learning and understanding. Identifying the state standards, that we are teaching to state standards, as well as providing a timeline, and then what does assessment look like within our curriculum. To empower instructional staff to use best practices, ensuring student growth. And so as I mentioned, we're working on 4 initiatives at the secondary, and this will be an upcoming workshop that I will lead with our instructional coaches to really, I think, for you to embrace the 4 initiatives that we're really we're leading at the secondary level. And then our 2 blue, to develop a framework for collecting, analyzing, and responding to student interest, perception, and outlook data, and then develop staff to respond to student interests. And so we have hired Sheila Witkowski. She sits at the high school as a career counselor. She's also leading the charge with career readiness with our secondary buildings, and we have lead counselors that she's, I think, leading that work, again, to make sure that we're preparing kids for that future that does excite them. And we do have an upcoming workshop, I think, focused just on career readiness at the secondary as well. So when we look at the activities surrounding these strategies, developing and implementing the MTSS framework. And so at the secondary level, we're taking a strong look at Tier 1. And so what does classroom instruction look like? And those 4 initiatives listed there are really instructional practices that are highly well-researched, and these are just tools for our teachers. These are pieces that I think can help engagement as well as learning, I think, regardless of the content area. And so that's FAME, that's formative assessment for Michigan educators, and how formative assessment happens in the second. It allows teachers to adjust their instruction based on what they know right in front of them. Reading apprenticeship, and not only is reading apprenticeship a valuable tool within our ELA classes, but again, reading apprenticeship, I think, is a vibrant instructional practice in all content areas. Building Thinking Classrooms is brand new. We did start it at the elementary and upper elementary, focused on math, but we are leading this work. It is a K-12, I think, piece, and we're lifting it into all content areas at the secondary level, as well as continuing the work of restorative practices. We have added professional learning communities around these 4 initiatives in our secondary buildings, and we're excited that we have tapped teacher leaders to lead this charge with other teachers. We've brought them in for professional learning with our instructional coaches and myself, and the energy was alive, and it just very, very fun, I think, to see how excited our teachers are, and we're going to continue that work probably 2 more times this year. We also have principal labs and teacher labs on the docket, so these are teachers in action that are willing to uplift the work within these 4 instructional practices, and so our principals are going to learn what these look like, as well as our teachers in the secondary, and so that's a big piece up and coming as well into looking in November as well as early December. Our subject areas and instructional coaches plan professional learning on effective professional learning communities focused around data, curriculum, and instruction. And so we've hit this pretty hard with our subject area coordinators in terms of what does professional learning look like when they are leading. And so we have framed that in terms of how are we connecting, what are the 4 initiatives within the professional learning community, the work that has to be done at the secondary, and then as well as how do we bring this to a close in terms of providing clarity, share-outs, reflections, and then next steps. And so everybody's walking away knowing what we've just completed, but what also is ahead. And then continuing to expand our career readiness leadership team. This again is led by Sheila Witkowski to enhance our system around career readiness for all students. So Sheila just came in, she did a presentation for the secondary division principals outlining, I think, her vision in terms of what needs to be done. And so we're partnering together, again, with those leadership teams within each building, as well as our principals. So we're excited to see, and we're of course partnering with Oakland Schools. They do provide funding, and so there are certain expectations that have to be met, and we certainly will meet them. And so as we kind of end this presentation here, there is excitement for this year as we are closing out. I think about closing out the strategic plan, which doesn't mean that we have to get rid of everything, but what will the new plan, I think, bring. But we're excited about the common definition of a professional learning community. I did link that, and I know I've spoken to that, but this is a K-12 common definition of what a professional learning community is. It does allow teachers to look at data. It allows teachers to talk about the data. It allows teachers to create a next step or a plan or a goal, and then to reflect on that, and then to adjust. And so it's a constant, we call it a cycle, where our teachers are learning not only individually, but they're learning collaboratively alongside their colleagues. And so I'm proud that we have a common definition with a kindergarten team, as well as all the way up to teachers who teach seniors. Strong stance on the design of professional learning. And so when we are leading teachers in learning, I think we're really looking at that lesson plan in terms of what are we putting in front of teachers and how do we engage teachers. And so that's an exciting piece. And I'm just so thankful for the leadership, not only with administrators, but in the teaching ranks who have stepped up to lead this work. We have great people. And I just want to celebrate all the leadership that we have. We're going to remain flexible and responsive to needs. We know that we have to adjust constantly. Again, just looking at our example, the handbook that we put in elementary, we've already decided on things that we need to update and change already, just based on the feedback. Restore and expand in-person connections with families, and then we just want to continue to strive. Maybe it's perfection, maybe it's excellence, but that's what we're striving for. So, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you. Question, Mrs. McGinnis.
After hearing all of that data, the number one thing that hits me is excitement. excitement from our teachers that come into work every single day in Clarkston is not just the same old go to work, be a teacher. Teaching in Clarkston is so exciting with so many things that you outlined here. I just can't imagine how each day is a new experience for so many of our teachers, implementing our strategic plan with our students, learning all these new professional learning communities and different project-based ways of developing our students' ideas and approaches to what they want their future to look like. And I'm just totally excited about all of it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. Well said. Mrs. Seibert?
Thank you. What is Be the Light Frege?
Sorry.
I tried Googling it.
Yes,
It
yeah.
came up with the refrigerator lid.
Yeah,
so.
you couldn't find that. In the early spring, maybe late winter, I applied for a grant along with the Farm Bureau Insurance, and received, I believe it was $2,500 if I remember, to have a refrigerator and pantry that will be accessible 24/7.
Now I know it.
Yep, and they'll be outside of Renaissance. So
Safe for you.
yes, yeah, Frege. Yes,
Got
yeah.
I think
Thank you.
we thought it was an acronym because it was.
Yeah, we thought, couldn't figure out what it stood for. Thank you.
Another one of those acronyms.
Yeah.
Mrs. Love?
Yeah, I had a question about, I think I've seen it twice, and so we're having a new program to prevent bullying, violence, social exclusion. I was just wondering, is that based, have we seen an increase in that? Is that why it's been implemented, or is this kind of a new thing? Why?
No, it's not an increase in any way. It's just one of those things that we've actually had in part of our strategic plan since 2018, 2019, I think, and it's one of those things just to always examine and to be sure that we're, accountable and have support for our kiddos.
Oh, I thought the yellow circle meant it was a new.
It's a new strategy for this year, but it's been part of our strategic plan as a strategy since 2018. What we had to do was when we did the strategic plan, we had a lot of strategies that there was no way we could do it all in 1 year, so we had to map it out over the course of 5-6 years.
Okay.
Anything else? Can't believe it's coming up on 5 years. Isn't that amazing? So I remember seeing these presentations 5 years ago when it was being developed and rolled out, and it was exciting then, it's exciting now. So thank you very much for being with us. That is our last presentation. We'll move on to item 6, action items. Item 6.1, approval of personnel changes. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Support.
Any questions for Mr. Lucido or comments? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.2 is the acceptance of the resolution regarding the Altria settlement. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the attached resolution accepting the settlement amount with the Altria Group Incorporated as presented.
Support.
This, for the benefit of the public, this is litigation dealing with the Philip Morris companies and some related entities, essentially indicating that there was deceptive marketing in marketing e-cigarettes to young people that led to, in part, the vaping crisis. Clarkston is one of several hundred school districts that's participating in this settlement. Our share of the settlement proceeds is about $38,000. However, in order to participate, we must approve a resolution by the end of next month. So the resolution is before you. Any questions or comments?
Just an additional comment, I would add that the knowledge of this settlement came to us when we attended advocacy convention in Washington, D.C.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. Other comments or questions? If not, this does require a roll call vote. So, Mrs. McLean, if you could be so good as to call the roll, please, again.
Mrs. Crane?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mrs. Egan?
Yes.
Mrs. Sivers,
Yes.
Mr. Heyer,
Yes.
Mr. Neat.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.3 is approval of the certification of delegates for the MASB Delegate Assembly in November. As the materials note, we are entitled to 4 delegates and 4 alternates. That is Thursday evening, starting around 7 o'clock. I will not be there. I have a township board meeting that night, so I'll be getting there later on Thursday. And I believe Mrs. Sivers also indicated that she would be coming later on Thursday as well. So do we have individuals that would like to serve as delegates for the Delegate Assembly?
I would be there.
I can. I will be there.
Okay, we have 4.
Steve.
All right. So I would entertain a motion, and we'll have Mrs. Egan, are you going to be there? So would you mind being an alternate? Okay.
I will be there, but I don't need to be a voting delegate. If Mrs. Egan would like the 5 bonus points for doing that, I'd be happy to have Mrs. Egan do it.
I can do that.
Okay, excellent. All right, so I would then, do we need a motion on this, Mr. Heyer?
Yes.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to have Mrs. Love, Mrs. McGinnis, Mrs. Crane, and Mrs. Egan be our delegates, and Mr. Heyer an alternate.
And you two might as well be alternates
I
as
would
well.
list the other names. Just
Okay, and Mrs. Sivers, Mr. Heyer, and myself as alternates.
I will make a motion exactly as you just said it.
And I will
So
support.
moved. All right.
Excellent. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We have one report item this evening, a bond update with Mr. Goodman and his team, but we'll start with Dr. Ryan.
Excellent. Yeah, I'd like to welcome our representatives from GMB and West Goodman to give an update for our community on a progress we've made with the bond initiatives, and we're trucking right along. And I have to salute all 3 of the gentlemen here tonight for the hard work they've been putting in week after week after week, and you can start to see how it's starting to take form. So thank you, and look forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to do a little presentation slideshow with GMB, but I want to start by giving you a quick update before we get into the bigger project, which is the junior high. The HVAC project's indoor hardware is out to bid right now. We had a pre-bid walkthrough last week, and bids are due on October 17th. So our goal is to come back to you in November with those recommendations for work to start summer of '24. And just a reminder, we have 2 phases in that HVAC work. Andersonville, Clarkston, North Sashabaw, and Sashabaw Middle School will be phase 1. In phase 2, 2025, will be Bailey Lake, Independence, Pine Knob, and Springfield Plains. Also, in November, we'll bring to you a recommendation for new front doors at the Clarkston High School. That is going to be part of our safety grant, and they're just in need of replacement, so that was a bid that will be going out soon, and then we'll be back in front of you next month for that. And then I think those are the big ones that are happening other than this junior high. So I have Tom and Mitch. Again, for those of you that are new, Tom Vanagrind, your role is lead architect, and Mitch is our second lead architect. Been with us quite a long time, since 2016. Again, like Sean said, we started meeting weekly back in November of 2022, and here we are nearly a year in, and we're getting really close. So our goal with this project, we're going to go through it tonight, but we're hoping to have it out to bid first quarter of '24, with work to begin late May, early June of '24. So I will bring Mitch and Tom up to kind of go through the slideshow.
Good evening. Does this work this way? Okay. All right. Well, the first portion of this is a little bit of a wrap-up and a review of where we've been, so I won't try to linger too long on that. But I believe last time we came before this board back in the spring, we were wrapping up what's known as the schematic design phase of the project, which is really our our first attempt at putting all the pieces together after all of the weeks of review with your departments and understanding all the necessary components. And at that phase, we went and got our first round of estimating complete with AUK, our construction partner. Since that point, that's the kind of the orange circle on your screen there. Since that point, over the summer and to this point, we've been moving through the design development phase, or what's labeled as focus on the screen. And that is the next layer of development to the project, where we're adding more detail, adding more information, making refinements based on any estimate information that came back at schematic design. And we're really wrapping up that process now, and AUK is in the process of putting together their second round of estimating on the project. So we're getting ready to move into what's kind of the final phase of the design portion of this, where we're moving to construction documents, and that's really where we put together the actual documents contractors need to bid and build the buildings. So as Wes mentioned, we're getting very close to having the design components really locked in on what this project is going to look like. And this is just another slide kind of helping to understand all the different elements that go into those different phases. I think this can be available in your packet to review if you have any questions on it. Go to the next one. And then this is just a review for your reference of some of the guiding principles that the design team put together early on in the process to act as a rubric for ourselves, so as we move through design decisions, we understand what the most important things are in the process. And those are listed here for your review. I won't read everything on the slide for everyone right now. All right. So just again, here's the site overview of all the buildings that are on it. And then on the next slide, we have a view of the floor plan, and the two areas highlighted in green are those that at the end of the project will still be remaining from the original junior high. So that's the auditorium area and the career tech area at the back of the building. All right, so that really moves us into the floor plan for the new project. This has not changed a whole lot since you saw it last time, but again, we're dialing everything into focus and adding a lot more detail as we continue to meet with your departments and staff and understand the needs of all the individual spaces and all the individual things that go into this building. Just earlier today, we had 3 or 4 hours of meetings with different departments at the junior high, again, just getting into the fine level details of this point about, how many cabinets do you want, what kind of doors do they have, getting really into the fine-grained information about what the spaces need to be successful. So again, what you see here is largely similar to what you've seen before. In the center of the plan at the bottom, you have the main entry. Academic wings are off to the left. That academic area is 2 stories tall, as you'll see on the next page. The yellow area in the middle of the plan is the gym, locker rooms, weight room, all those support spaces. And then the kind of the white area off to the right of the plan is the auditorium that's remaining from the initial building. And just above that are all of the fine arts areas. So music spaces, theater spaces, art and STEAM are up there. And then just above the gymnasium is the cafeteria and kitchen and those support spaces as well. As a very broad overview of the layout. Again, if you have any more specific questions, please feel free to ask them as we get into this. Then here's a view of that second floor. So again, most of the second floor is in the classroom wing. There is a second floor running track that goes around the gym, and then a few mechanical mezzanines spread out around the building as well. And the area highlighted in green in this graphic just shows you more of the common spaces and kind of the circulation, public spaces of the building. You can see they wrap around the main gym space, including the cafeteria. They touch on the lobby outside of the auditorium and then extend towards the academic wing where the learning stair is, and you'll see that in some of the images later on in the presentation. We have some exterior views to share that are in development of the project. This is a view looking towards the main entry from the parent drop-off loop and parking lot. And to the left side, you can see the windows of the classroom wing, and then the area of glass right in front is the main entry space and office area. another view of that portion of the building, though you have a little bit better view of the auxiliary gym, which is immediately to the right of the main entry, those high windows up above. The color and material patterns are intended to work well with the remaining portions of the building, the auditorium that's remaining, and also the career tech space that's remaining at the back as well. And again, another view of that main entry as we develop. Moving inside the building, we have a view of the learning stair headed towards the academic wing. Again, that's the two-story portion. Again, this is intended to be kind of one of those bright and open spaces and a unique learning space that's really not present in your current junior high, offering additional types of spaces for students to meet in and learn in. Here's a view of the entry to the Learning Commons or Media Center. This is right off that main entry area, and again, looking directly into that space. We actually met with this department today, and they were really thrilled with the development to see here, particularly the amount of windows and natural light that they're going to have compared to their current space. And this is a view a little farther into the building, looking kind of from the ramp next to the Learning Commons over towards the cafeteria area. And so you can see highlighted in front is a small stair, and that really points out that the building will still be on there will be a little bit of a split level on the building. So there'll be the main level, which is the gym level, and which is currently approximately at the entry height of the auditorium lobby. And then there'll be a second, slightly higher area, which is kind of the height of or elevation of the current main entrance to the building, and that will remain as well. Here's a view inside the extended learning area in one of the classroom wings. So we're looking into all of the classrooms along the edge. View inside the main gymnasium from the running track. Looking down into that gym. It'll be a 3-station gym, so there'll be 3 cross courts with the running track above. And at the far back, you can see some windows, and those actually look into the cafeteria area. So there'll be a connection between those spaces. And then I think the final rendering here is just inside the Learning Commons, the Media Center space. Again, showing some of the natural light that's going to be in there, and some of the options for seating and breakout spaces, and again, just more flexible learning environments that this building is going to provide. Great. Any questions or more information we can offer?
A couple of things. Mrs. Billing, can you send that presentation to the board? That would be awesome. Thank you. And can you give us a quick recap of the timeline? And we do have a new board member, so it'd be helpful to kind of get the big picture as to the stages of this construction.
Sure, yeah. So this is going to be a phased project, and it's going to take a number of years to get fully complete. As Wes mentioned, so we're working towards wrapping up design over the next 5-6 months, with the goal of it going out to bid in the first quarter of 2024, with actual dirt moving around in late spring, early summer. And that phase 1 work will be if we go back to the floor plan view in the package, it's really the yellow areas, the athletic areas. So that's the main gym and the adjacent locker rooms. And we do that first because once that's built, that allows us to tear down the old gym. And then once the old gym is gone, that makes room in phase 2 to build the new academic wing. And so we can build all those new classrooms where the old gym used to be. And once those are up and operational, then we can tear down the old classrooms and get that out of the way. And once those are out of the way, we can kind of work our way around and complete the build in another phase or 2 of adding in the new cafeteria space and kitchen space. And then it wraps up with the last phase of construction will be the fine arts and theater spaces above the existing auditorium.
And how many years do you propose?
Do you want to answer that one?
As best as you can predict. I understand that caveat.
No, it's probably complete 5-year program in 2029 before everything's completed.
Thanks. Mr. Heyer and Mrs. Crane are our bond and construction liaisons. Do you guys have anything to add?
I would just like to say I've appreciated every meeting that we've attended. You guys have been great about giving us information, in emails, in the meetings. I know something we've all talked about and worried about is the security. And at our last meeting that we were at, Jason, I can't remember his last name, the SEC consultant.
Jason Russell.
Yeah, Jason Russell was there, and he had a couple of really good ideas, but I think for the most part, I felt like he was very impressed with all the thought that's already gone into it, as am I. So I'm just very appreciative.
I would just add, I think we have a great team. I appreciate you guys being honest and straightforward with us. I think the building has a lot of flexibility built in. If we wanted to do something different with it in the future, we certainly could. I think that has to be a main driving force, because we change grade configurations, we change usage. If we wanted to do teaming in this building, that would work great. If we want to continue to use it the way we do use it now, that works great. This, there's still a handful of moving parts in terms of, what's glass and what's wall and what are the costs involved there. And I mean, we're going to iron all those things out as we go here. And I think like the next 2 years, maybe 3 years are pretty solid. I think when you get into the, part about, hey, how do you build a cafeteria right where the current cafeteria is? Like, we got to work some of those things out, and I think the team is very aware of that, and we're going to be creative in how we deal with some of those things. So I think, the farther out you go, it gets a little more blurry, but certainly not something the team's working on is considered. So I think we're doing great at this point. Construction costs and, what kind of alternates we can have in there. And, if we have to value engineer a little bit, or we're able to do a couple extra things, like time will tell. As soon as this first bid package comes in, we're bidding the vast majority of this in one pack, so we can have some of the same contractors and some consistency to it. So all good things, I think, at this point. And as a board, I think as we go through this and continue to look at what might seem like some of the same stuff, I think it's really, really important that it stays in front of us and it stays in front of our community. And there will be minor changes every time we look at it. And I think we need to be really up on that as we progress through this project over the next 5 years.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Heyer, and thank you and Mrs. Crane for your work on the committee. And I want to echo the comments. We've had a great relationship with GMB for several years. You guys are first rate. It's been an excellent program up till now. I'm sure with Mr. Goodman's assistance, it's going to be a great project as well. So thanks for coming out tonight.
Sure, and I would add,
go ahead, Tom.
I'd like to reciprocate that a little bit. Some observations I've made in the process. Your group and the leadership of your team that we're working with, this new facility really has been asked to respect the traditions of Clarkston and still maintain that, but yet everybody's open to where are we going to grow? How is this facility going to allow for some of that growth that Steve's talking about? And it's intriguing to see a couple of presentations tonight and how those are really going to tie into what we're doing to this new building. The project-based learning specifically. I'm seeing photos of things that you're doing some great things in spite of the facility. They're in the hallway. But there's really cool things going on. We have had your team help us intentionally design some spaces here that can help that just really flourish. Even a lot of the strategic plan goals you have, I can see pieces of that weaved into the entire facility and how it can help. Now the programs are the first piece, but as designers of the space, they call it the third environment, the third teacher. There's some really cool things that are going to help augment what you guys are doing. So I'm very excited about that. And I also say your staff, the Clarkston Junior High staff, have been very positive, very excited. It's not, the glass is half full and it's filling up faster. So it's been a lot of really fun interactions with your staff.
Tom, when I was listening to the project-based learning environment, I really had flashbacks of you telling me it's not a hallway, it's an extended learning environment. So I appreciate that vision and foresight.
It's a 30-foot
President
wide
Meade,
hallway.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Just want to do a quick recap of some numbers here. What's the anticipated student capacity of the classroom area?
Off the top of my head.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's 1,200, I think, with a core to 1,300.
And how about the seating in the gym?
1,400.
Yeah, we designed the seating to fit the whole student body.
And is our core facilities built for a larger student capacity than our classroom capacity is.
Yes.
Similarly, as we built the high school with a 2,500 capacity in our core area and a 2,000 classroom capacity.
Yep.
I just wanted to be mindful of that because that is, as you've said, gives us growth and flexibility for the future. And,
Yeah.
you know, last year was the first year we had an increase in the birth rate in the state of Michigan. So, you know, if it's going to take us 5 years to build this, we don't want to be opening it and finding ourselves we're at capacity and have no room.
Yeah, it's a good comment. We have master plans, some addition locations for classrooms so that you can expand that, but then design more of the core pieces to already be there because you just don't add on to them as easy. So those core pieces are designed for a larger capacity than the classrooms, if you will.
Yeah, there are a number of spaces in the building
Could
that
be
we could
converted.
turn into classrooms.
Right,
The flexibility is there.
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Sivers?
I just had a question. I'm the new board member, so thank you for the additional information. That was probably repetitive, but I heard commentary about security analysis and obviously keeping student safety at the forefront of the conversations. Without obviously getting into specifics, is that evaluation and re-evaluation a continuing conversation through each process, or can you just describe what that relationship is? Because I'm assuming it's an outside analytics that's coming in and evaluating.
Yes. We have been working with SEC, this Jason Russell. He's secure education consultant. He's a former Secret Service, and he has a team. And then, so he's been with us along the way. He will definitely be there as we make changes and as we complete. And as things change or new things come out, we will certainly engage with him. Also with GMB, they're working throughout the state. If they find someone else that has some ideas out there that we're not thinking of, they bring that certainly to us. But the most recent was our last meeting last month, and he gave us some good things. He was, again, thought we were on the right track, and we're going to implement some of those ideas that he brought forth. But yeah, it's kind of there's a lot you could do. His motto has been build this and design it for education, what's best for education, and certainly tie these security enhancements in there. But so it's kind of nice. They can keep doing the educational side, and we'll bring him in for a check every so often. But it was a very good check the first round. We worked with him a year and a half ago, and he looked through all of our schools in the district. But this being brand new, it's kind of nice to have his eyes on there. So hopefully that answers your question. But we also do depend on GMB. They have, they're working in several school districts throughout the state.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Sivers, beyond that, we've established some, I don't know if you call them protocols or standards for security. Like we've built a secure entrance. The office has full visibility of the parking lot. Traffic flow is designed with security in mind of where the entry points are and when those are accessible and how to get in. And so that's something over the last bond issue that we've made sure is really ubiquitous in the whole district. Top of mind, some of those basic pieces. So the security consultant and the details that Mr. Goodman just ran through are really kind of fine tuning almost. We've really taken a big swing at that security piece really over the last 5 years. As things have changed and we've needed to, we've tried to come up with a design that still makes our buildings accessible and available to parents and volunteers and community members, but still providing that safety and security that we have to have.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Again, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming out this evening. We have no discussion items tonight, so we are to the second point of the meeting that allows for public comment. Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on any topic? Okay. Our next Board of Education meeting will be Monday, November 13th. It will start at 6:30 with a public hearing regarding the 2022-23 audit, And then the regular meeting will start as usual at 7 p.m. Item 11 is adjournment. May I have a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.